Capitalism killed my mom. Let's break the spell before it kills us and Mother Earth. My mother died on February 7th, 2023, only a few months after being diagnosed with lung cancer. She was just months away from turning 65, from being eligible for Medicare, from finally being able to retire and rest. She was kind and loving and imaginative, and one of the hardest working people I've ever met. She was also driven and quietly intense, and in many ways, I absorbed the way I navigate the world from her. She did everything the right way by boomer standards, but as millennials, Gen Xers, Zoomers, and increasingly all Americans are learning, the right way isn't enough. We all live in an exploitative system built on illusions of opportunity, security, and merit. This system doesn't serve the purpose we were told it did, and it doesn't support us the way we were taught it would. In fact, amid these mounting wars and atrocities being carried out by our government and their corporate allies, we're finding out that the greatest democracy on earth is actually an imperialist terrorist, and our leaders are actively conspiring to transform citizens into serfs. All of this is possible because we've all been living under a spell. It was cast many generations ago over the masses, refined and optimized each generation to maintain control. This spell has driven all the narratives and behaviors and identities we've been consuming, as well as using to delude and distract ourselves from what's actually happening. As much as the spell and propaganda and money and social engineering has tried to stop it, we're reaching the breaking point where the consequences of this illusion can no longer be ignored. My mother's death broke the spell for me and sent me on a long journey of disillusionment I'm just now starting to find some stable footing and empowerment in. And as the system becomes increasingly unstable for us living in it, even while they ramp up war, environmental destruction, and social control, the spell is breaking for all of us. How we navigate this time could save us all, and Mother Earth. Life under the spell of capitalism. Mom's official cause of death was complications from her chemotherapy treatment, but in truth, everything on the road to her demise was paved by the system we live in, a political and economic landscape that prioritizes profit above actual life and ensures its own continuation by traumatizing, manipulating, and programming the millions of people who live in it to serve industry and go along with their exploitation. My mom didn't go to college and was a first-gen white-collar worker. I understand now from my own career trials and tribulations how nebulous boundaries and responsibilities are in corporate and professional environments, and how easy it is to get swallowed up when no one has explained the unspoken rules of navigating all of this, especially when you feel like you have to prove yourself. My mother only had 8 months to go before retirement when she got diagnosed with cancer. There were fears underneath the overt health implications of the diagnosis, whether consciously known or not. I can't let my guard down. I'm expendable. If I'm weak, it will prove they can get rid of me. If I lose this job, I lose my health insurance. Toughen up. Get through it. These are thoughts and feelings in the back of almost every working class person's mind. She continued working full time, except on days she got chemo. She didn't rest enough. She didn't sleep enough. After decades of grinding and pushing herself to perform and break limits, she couldn't let herself stop now, so close to the end of her career. But within just a few months of getting diagnosed, she ended up in the emergency room, and she didn't leave. My mother's death wasn't just a result of a profit-driven healthcare system, or an irresponsible pharmaceutical industry, or precarious labor rights. It was a result of living in a profoundly neglectful system that teaches us we are inherently unworthy and need to quote-unquote earn a living. She died because, like everyone living in America, she lived in the inevitable circumstances with someone whose ancestors had been manipulated into subservience, exploited for her productivity and output, and programmed to give more, do more, be more, or get left behind, all to empower a system that makes a few rich from the suffering and sacrifice of the many. But this essay isn't a political manifesto. It's about emotions, about identity, about imagination and possibility, and how all of these things are carefully manipulated by the system we live in. I'm writing to help you become more aware of what's happening inside of you, so you can understand the pain you're feeling and not feeling, actually address it, and heal. Capitalism isn't just an economic structure or government policies. It's a story, a narrative, an emotional reality that shapes people's sense of self, their relationships, and worldviews. And it's only when we get to the state of fully acknowledging how this story has robbed you and the people you love your entire life that you can actually take real action to change things. Getting indoctrinated into an artificial system. My first memory as a child wasn't of a physical event, it was feeling other people's energies and emotions, their joy and excitement, the things that uplifted them, but also their pain, their sadness, fear, shame. I felt all of this in my parents and the adults around me, and as I grew and became more aware of my body and my environment, I also became aware of the systems and social factors giving rise to all of these feelings, of how money and work shaped identity and social status, how that determined shame or pride, how there was no emotional release valve for any of this, so all the feelings got repressed and buried in people's bodies, how people numbed out and retreated from that pain, making it hard to relate to themselves, let alone each other. Before ever learning anything about work, economics, and money, I learned we live in a society with hierarchy and caste. You have to constantly earn money or face social ruin, poverty, or worse. Your value is determined by how much and how hard you can work. Work depletes you, so you must go numb to survive. You trade your life force to participate in the system. There is no alternative to any of this. These are just things I picked up based on living in small town, white, working class middle America. How much of this resonates with your experience? Living under capitalism is completely unnatural, as in, it literally does not follow the laws, rhythms, and abundance of nature. At the highest level, our economy has the same exact goal as cancer, to grow infinitely, despite finite resources. The relentless growth and profit motive is consuming all natural resources and destroying the environment, plundering resources through imperialism, exploiting people around the world and increasingly at home for cheaper labor, all to improve the bottom line. And all of this has been hidden, justified, or distracted from by propaganda, so we can never face the actual reality that we live in. After getting conditioned to live this way for many generations, most of us have been locked in survival mode, increasingly alienated from our true, authentic selves, without time, energy, or emotional capacity to actually connect to other people. Over time, this has separated us from our spirit. These limitations are not always true at all times in all of our lives, but fundamentally, the illusion poisons every single person living in this system, from the financially bankrupt homeless people on the streets to the emotionally and spiritually compromised rulers at the top of the pyramid. Disillusionment will save us. At its most basic definition, to be disillusioned is to be free of the false beliefs and illusions. It's often associated with disappointment, but this ignores what comes next. Freedom from parasitic ideas that drain our energy and stop us from creating something better. Capitalism has hijacked the entire world in a web of economic extraction and exploitation, but it's also captured us from the inside. Think about how you see and define yourself. What aspects of your identity were created by consumer culture? Which of your goals and aspirations are based on achieving security or social status in the system rather than fulfilling a deeper purpose? Do the dreams you have for your life stem from your childhood or from the media? Chances are, so much of who you think you are is little more than strategies adopted a long time ago in order to survive in this needlessly complex and violent world. And there's no judgment there. That's just the reality underneath these illusions we've been living under. And recognizing the real value and gold hidden beneath these illusions is key to navigating this time. Financial systems, economic models, and business paradigms that have defined our reality for decades are going to continue to destabilize and undergo radical and permanent changes or dissolution as a result of it. That's because these structures were never set up to work long term anyway, despite what billions of dollars of propaganda and decades of social engineering claim. All that's happening is the end of things that did not work and should not exist because they are at odds with what the highest good of for all is. The biggest illusion to let go of at this time is that we have anything real to lose except for the time and energy we've already invested in these illusions. Building the original dream. I wasn't there when my mom died. She was in an ICU in Illinois, and I was home across the country in Los Angeles. I talked to her on the phone so I could tell her I loved her. Her last words to me were, "It's going to be okay, Dustin." Then she fell unconscious. One of the things she planned to do when she retired was travel, especially to see the ocean. She only saw two in her lifetime, once the Atlantic when we went to Florida on vacation, and once the Pacific when she came to visit me in Los Angeles. After I got off the phone with her, I drove to the beach in a daze and started taking photos of the horizon and sunset so my sister and dad could show her if she woke up. I sat in the sand for a long time waiting until the sun completely set. I closed my eyes to try and project myself into the room with her so I could be there with her. At some point, I felt her next to me. I couldn't see her with my physical eyes. There was just a sense of her standing to my left, watching the sunset with me. And as it got darker, she began to get younger, de-aging from a woman into a girl, into a small child, probably no more than 4 or 5 years old. And she was so happy, happier and more full of life than I'd ever seen her. And then she disappeared. She was free. I realized what I felt that day was my mother as her true essence, as who she truly was, being what she was here to be, before she adapted and conformed to be accepted, before she learned to hide, to protect herself from judgment and rejection, before she armored up to prove herself in this difficult world, before life became an endurance test instead of an experience. She was radiant underneath that, powerful, joyful, and special. And the same is true for all of us. So connect to that part of yourself. Know it is important. Know that it is valuable. Know it is real. Know it is needed. Because as the structures around us continue to fall apart, the false identities we have attached to these structures will fall with them. But you won't be bereft. You won't be empty. You'll have the chance to finally be your true self without the masks, and to build the dream you came here to fulfill. Thank you for listening. I know this is a lot, so I'm going to release additional content on how to navigate disillusionment. Please reach out if you need additional support. Thank you.